Hey, what is going on, you Sniffling Sneasel? Coming at you with some post-rotation content today. Going to take a look at a couple builds of Mew, the Meloetta build and the Double Turbo Mew, what they look like right now, and what they will look like after rotation. Before we get into that, though, I do want to let you all know that I'm now partnered and sponsored by Quality Patch over at qualitypatchdesigns.com. Link will be in the description. They're a really cool Pokemon merch store. They have a ton of different stuff there. By far, my favorite thing, though, that they do is they do custom shirts with artworks of cards. So if you have a favorite card artwork that you want to turn into a shirt, well, now you know where to do it. QualityPatchDesigns.com. The shirt I'm actually wearing is the artwork from Darkrai GX. So it's really cool store. Super excited to be working with them. You can use a code AzulGG for 10% off over there. And if you click on my link in the description, it'll automatically be applied at checkout. So make sure you go check them out. And let's go ahead. Let's get into some Mew lists. So the way I'm going to do this is we're going to take a look first at what the Mew builds currently look like in the current format. We're going to see what they lose to rotation, and then we'll see what I did to kind of fix those holes that came up because of rotation. So this is my current build of DTA Mew, non-Aerodactyl build, because come post-rotation, we're not going to be really running Aerodactyl anymore, I don't think, because Lugia won't be quite as strong. So this is it, and what we lose is we lose our Quick Balls, and we lose our umbrella, what's it called, parasol. We lose our parasol and we lose our Quick Ball. So not too big of a hit to Mew, to be honest. And this is what I did with the list when I worked on it the other day on the stream, talking to chat a little bit, taking a look at some of the lists that have been doing well over in Japan, trying to figure out what we're trying to beat. So Oricorio no longer in the build. Without Lugia having access to powerful energy, I feel like there's no real reason to run Oricorio anymore, as it's hard for them to get to a 1-hit KO on UV Max unless they're using a Dark-type Pokemon, in which case Oricorio just doesn't matter. So we lost the Quick Balls, so no Oricorio in the build. We lost the Quick Balls, so we had to make up for that somehow. And Nest Ball is, of course, coming out in Scarlet and Violet. I didn't want to go all in on the Nest Balls. You see we only have 3 here, because if we go all in on the Nest Balls, they're a little bit awkward. Not quite as good as Quick Ball, because Nest Balls, once you have a full bench, you can't play them, and also it doesn't discard a card. So I've gone with 3 Nest Ball currently, and then 2 Feather Ball. The other card that I've added in here that might seem a little bit interesting is the Avery. I think Avery has a lot of potential of being really, really strong up against Gardevoir EX, because, I don't know, they want to get down like 4 Ralts, plus they want to get down Greninja, and then if they use the Mirage Steps Curlia, they're going to be putting a bunch of Curlias in play as well. So a bunch of Ralts, a bunch of Curlia, the Greninja. If they use Mirage Steps, it wouldn't be too hard for them to fill up their bench, to be honest, in one turn. So I've got the Avery in here, so we can do some shenanigans, limit their bench a little bit with the Avery, maybe even use double cross switcher in the same turn, and really start to pick apart the Pokemon they're trying to set up before they get a chance to use them. So I really like the idea of the Avery. Of course, I haven't tested a whole ton of games or anything like that, so I don't know how good it possibly is against Gardevoir, but I like the idea of it. It also did well in one of the lists at the most recent big tournament in Japan that had like 3,000 players. One of the Mew lists had Avery, and I like the idea behind it, so I have one of those in here. But besides that, it is still like the classic DTE Judge Path Mew. So got a Path to the Peaks. I do still have some Lost Cities in here, because it does seem like Lost Box is still going to be a pretty powerful deck. Reggie's doesn't seem like it's holding its own as of right now, so don't need it for that matchup. And if Lost Box doesn't end up being that popular or that strong in the long run, I definitely could see Lost Cities getting cut from here for probably some more control with Path to the Peak, another Path to the Peak, another Lost Vacuum, something like that. And I do have the Echoing Horn in here as well, because if we have the Avery, you can set up some really cool plays with Echoing Horn. Normally, people can kind of fill up their bench to kind of play around Echoing Horn, but when you play Avery on your turn, they do have to discard some Pokemon off their bench, so they can no longer play with a full bench. And then you can Echoing Horn a 2 prize Pokemon into play, and then use 2 cross switchers to bring that 2 prize Pokemon up into the active and knock it out with the Mew. So having the Avery in here, I kind of like the idea of keeping the Echoing Horn around as well, but still pretty straightforward. We didn't lose a whole ton with the Mew builds, like I mentioned, so not a whole ton lost. But definitely wish we still had Quick Balls in here, that's for sure. The next build we're going to take a look at is a Meloetta build. So this is not my Meloetta build. I haven't worked on Meloetta Mew in a long time, so I just took Fabrizio's build that they got day 2 over at Natal Regionals with, because they've been playing Mew for, I don't know, for forever. Every time I see Fabrizio's name on a tournament results page, it's always playing Mew. So I trust their process of getting to this list. So this is their build of Meloetta Mew in the current format. Now let's take a look at what we lose here to rotation. Of course, the Quick Balls are gone. The Parasol's gone. So once again, not too much. That's basically all we lost was Quick Balls and Parasol. Now let's take a look at what I did with the list, and where I would go and start with Meloetta going into the next format. There we go. A little bit thicker of a Mew VMAX line. Still got the double Meloetta. I've kind of given up on some of the more aggressive cards in the list. Rotom does rotate, so that's not even an option, but no Trekking Shoes. And I've gone actually pretty heavy on the Path to the Peak stuff. 3 Vacuum, 3 Path to the Peak. And then for the extra Pokemon search cards, because we lost Quick Balls, I've gone with double Nest Ball and double Fog Crystal. The Fog Crystal has a little bit more value in this kind of build than the DTE build because it can get Meloetta, whereas Featherball can't get Meloetta, so Featherball can only get Mew Vs, but when we're trying to get in different basic Pokemon, the idea of the Fog Crystal is pretty intriguing to me, especially because I don't feel like this deck is ever hurting to find the Mew V Maxes. Featherball, of course, can find Mew V Max, but I don't know. Whenever I've played Mew in the past, 4 Ultra Ball plus 3 Mew V Max is usually enough to get there by the time you actually need the Mew V Maxes. So I don't think you really need Featherball in the build, so may as well have that little bit of extra consistency for those early Melodious Echo plays through the Fog Crystal. So this list definitely could be more aggressive about trying to pull off the turn 1 Meloetta play. Could even go up to like a third for a Seal Stone. Could play something like Trekking Shoes. You could definitely find room for Trekking Shoes in here. But I'm leaning a little bit more on the disruption in this build. Got the 2 Judge, the Roxanne, and then the 3 Lost Vacuum, 3 Path to the Peak. So a little bit more on the control side of things as far as Meloetta builds go. But I definitely could see a more aggressive build being the better route to take. And I think that's going to do it. I think it's going to wrap this one up. I'm going to be coming at you with more videos like this, a little bit shorter videos going over other builds of decks. I already went over Reggie's and Lugia on the stream the other day. Went through those lists, took a look at what I would play currently, what gets cut with rotation, and where I would go from after rotation. So be on the lookout for some more post-rotation content coming out from me soon. Final thoughts on Mew would be it loses very little to rotation, and basically everything that it does lose is pretty easily replaced. Basically, we're just losing Quick Ball, which is definitely a stronger card than Feather Ball or Nest Ball, but pretty easy to kind of just lose the Quick Balls and put the Nest Balls and the Feather Balls in and probably retain similar consistency. Not quite the level of consistency that I had with the Quick Balls. I'll definitely take a little bit of a hit, but I don't think a big enough hit to kind of knock Mew off of its... Not that it was like a tier S or tier 1 deck last format, but I think going into post-rotation with how little it loses, I think it definitely is potentially going to be the best deck overall in the format. Most of the other decks losing so many powerful options and hits to their consistency, not quite is what happening to Mew. Of course, Drapion is always in the format, and any deck could always just add 2 Drapion in at any point. But yeah, Mew definitely looking like it might be definitely going to be one of the best decks in the format, I think, for sure, and could even be the best deck in the format with how little it loses and how similar the format almost seems like it's going to become, besides, of course, Gardevoir EX seeming to be a new player when it comes out in Scarlet and Violet. So that's my thoughts on Mew. That's where I'm currently at with the lists. Catch y'all in the next video.